everyone. My name is Zoe. I am a product manager on the Flutter team.
And I'm Andrew from Flutter's developer relations team.
Thank you for joining our breakout session. We're here today to show you how you can monetize your Flutter apps. If you watched the keynote earlier, you probably already knew that we announced open beta for the Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter. And that's what we're going to focus on today. But I just want to quickly mention that in addition to ads, there are two other ways to monetize your mobile apps. For example, you can always charge for your app in the App Store. Another option will be in-app purchase. You can allow your user to buy extra content or features such as game currency through in-app purchase. We also have a plugin for that on pub.dev. Today, we're going to be focusing on ads because we have this new ads integration that we're excited to tell you about. During the keynote today, we announced the Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter is now open for beta. In this brand new plugin, we now support a wide variety of ad formats. For example, an overlay banner, which is usually a rectangle ad at the top and bottom of the device screen. Second, an inline banner. Actually, it's just another variation of the banner ads, but the main difference here is that the overlay banner is floating on top of a Flutter view, but the inline banner allows you to integrate it into the widget tree so the ads can appear inline with app content. Next is interstitial. These are full-screen ads that cover the whole screen of your app. These ads work great when you place them at natural breaks and transitions in your app. For example, you can place them after the user completes a level in a game. We also support rewarded video. These are ads that reward users for watching short videos. Last but not least, we're also supporting native ads. Native ads are highly customizable, so you can design them to match the look and feel of your app content. This allows you to provide a seamless ads experience with minimal interruptions to the app. Moreover, another highlight of this new plugin is that we're now unifying support for both Ad Manager and AdMob. For those of you who are not familiar, AdMob and Ad Manager are two different ad services. Generally speaking, small to medium-sized publishers prefer AdMob because it's an easy-to-use solution. Google Ad Manager is an ad management platform for large publishers who have significant direct sales and need more advanced features. That being said, no matter what size publisher you are, our new plugin is able to tailor to your scenarios. When it comes to mobile code, AdMob and Ad Manager are very similar in terms of implementation. So for today's demo, we will use an AdMob ad as an example. Before we get started, here's some ads terminology I would like to clarify. First, ad unit. Ad unit represents a single place in your app where you want to show an ad. If you have an app with 3 screens and you want to show a banner on each screen, then you need to create 3 ad units so you can control them independently. Next, ad format. We already talked about it earlier. You can choose between a banner ad, an interstitial, rewarded video, or native ad. Ad request. When your app loads an ad, it sends an ad request to the server. You can use this object to provide additional information that can be used when selected. Last but not least, test ad. Once you implement an ad, you definitely want to test it. But it's important to enable test ads during development so you can click on them as much as you want without the clicks actually being recorded. Because if you click on too many ads without being in a test mode, there is a risk that your account might be flagged for invalid activity, and you don't want that to happen. The good thing is that Google does provide test ad units. These ad units are not associated with your account at all, so there's no risk of your account generating invalid traffic when using them. Okay, now you have enough of ads terminology. We can get started. For today's demo, Andrew and I are going to show you an app we created in our spare time. Let me tell you more about it. Both Andrew and I are parents, so we created this app called The Big List of Parenting Jokes. It was so much fun that we wanted to share it with the entire world. But we soon realized that we have to pay for the maintenance cost, the servers, etc. So we like to monetize the app via ads. That way, the app can be free to download. In order to load an ad in your app, the first step is to create an ad unit. Actually, in order to do so, you will first need to create an AdMob account. You can follow the link below to create an account. To save some time, I have already created an AdMob account. After you log in, you will navigate to the left and click Apps in the sidebar. Here, we want to create a brand new app, so you will now click Add App. Let's first create an Android version of our app. Select Android as the platform. Select No, because we haven't published it yet. Let's fill in a name. The big list of parenting jokes. Select Add App. Okay, now you see there are 2 tasks for you to complete. The first one is to set up an appads.txt for the app. That's a mechanism that lets you leverage your business website for some extra security. It's a good thing to use, but since we're focused on mobile app right now, I'm going to skip past it. Now let's move on to create an ad unit. For the ad format, I'm going to pick banner because banner is probably the easiest one to start with. Later, Andrew can show you how to display an overlay banner versus an inline banner in the code. Now let's enter a name for this ad unit. Let's call it a demo ad. Well, you know what? The name is kind of boring. I'm just going to call it a fun ad. Here we go. Click Create Ad Unit. Hooray! Now you have your first ad unit. But don't forget, you only create an Android version at this point. Let's repeat the same step to create an iOS one. Let's hit Done, go to Apps in the sidebar, Add App, select iOS this time, click No, hit Continue, put the app name there, click Add App, create an ad unit. Select the banner again, give it a name, click Create Ad Unit. Cool, now we have 2 ad units, one for each platform. Now Andrew is going to show us how we can load them in our Flutter app. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Zoe. All right, so here I am with my running app. It displays a list of jokes that I like to tell my daughter. As you can see, my design skills aren't that sophisticated, but my comedy is pure gold, right? So that's why Philip did the talk and design touches, and I'm doing this one. Let's take a quick look at the code. I have a hard-coded list of joke data here in a file called data.dart. In main.dart, I have a stateless widget that represents my app, and another widget for the screen itself, which uses a scaffold and list view to display a row for each joke in the list. So, I've got my app. Zoe and I made the decision that these jokes need to be brought to the whole world, so I'm going to use ad-based monetization from AdMob to make that possible. The first step is to get the Ads SDK integrated into my project. I can do that by adding a line to my pub spec for the Google Mobile Ads plugin. This plugin has support for iOS and Android. While I'm in here, I'm also going to throw in a line for provider, which is a package you may already know. It makes distributing data down the tree with inherited widgets a little cleaner and easier. Now, I just need to do a pub get and a full rebuild of my app, and I'll have those packages and the native code that comes with the plugin. Now, once that native code is initialized, some of it's going to look around for an AdMob application ID.
I just registered 2 of those.
Yep, and I need to add them to my underlying Android and iOS projects. First, let me open the manifest for my Android project. I just need to add a little XML element within the application tag to hold that ID as metadata. You'll see there's a particular name for the metadata, and don't worry about memorizing that because it's included in the plugin instructions. Okay, so that's Android. Now for iOS. I need to update the info.plist file that's part of my app's iOS runner subproject. The Flutter plugin for IntelliJ has this handy shortcut for opening Xcode, which I will now use. Then I add a new row to the plist file called GAD application identifier. And again, don't memorize that because it's in the instructions. And then I give it a string value and I paste in my iOS application ID. Cool. So now no matter which platform I'm building for, Android or iOS, the SDK will know right where to find the correct ID. Speaking of SDKs, now's a good moment to point out that the Google Mobile Ads plugin references the same native mobile ads SDKs that you use for any other iOS or Android app. So the 2 places you just saw me adding ID values are the same as you would use for any other iOS or Android app, whether it's built with Flutter or not. Okay, so now I need to update my app's Dart code to take advantage of these new capabilities. Let's start right up here in main. Before I do anything ads related, I need to initialize the mobile ads SDK. For simplicity's sake, I'd like to do that right when my app starts running. Because that initialization involves Dart talking to native code, I need to make sure Flutter's method channel service is running. And the way to do that is by calling widgetsFlutterBinding.ensureInitialized. You may be looking at that line and thinking, I've used plugins before and never in my life have I had to do anything with whatever the heck that method is. And you'd be right. Run app will actually call this for you when it executes. But because I want to use a plugin before calling run app, I need to do it myself to avoid a runtime error. Okay, so here's the initialization call, which returns a future. It's important to wait for that future to complete before doing anything that involves ads. Sitting and waiting before calling run app isn't a great idea, though. So instead, I'll create a little class to hold data about my ads integration and use provider to make it available to the widgets further down the tree. So I'll make a new file called addstate.dart, and inside I'll create a little model class. First thing it'll need is a property for the future, and I can take that in via the constructor. Also, I can stick my ad unit IDs in this class.
I registered 2 of those as well.
Right. As we saw earlier, Zoey created one banner ad unit for Android and one for iOS. Since I'm working on my app right now, though, and you should always use test ads when you're working on your app, I'm going to use the dedicated test ad units for banners on iOS and Android. There's actually a page in the AdMob documentation that lists these ad units for each platform and format. And they always serve test ads, which makes them great when you're coding. So I'll add a little platform check here and return the right ad unit for each one. Now, back in my main method, I can create one of these little objects and give it the future from the mobile ads plugin. Then wrap my application widget with a provider and use the value constructor to make my ad state object available to any widget that needs it. All right, now, if I do a rebuild of my application, you will see that I have changed absolutely nothing that's visually discernible. But that's okay. It's up and running with the SDK, and now I can load and display an ad. There are lots of ways to make room in an app's UI to display a banner. However, I am but a humble dad joke author, so I'm going to start with one of the simplest, just a single banner at the bottom of the screen. First, I'll wrap my list view in a column. Then I can add a sized box at the bottom. I'll give it a height of 50. There are a bunch of standard sizes for banner ads, but 320 by 50 is definitely the most common. Now, I just need to add an expanded widget around the list view to make sure it fills all the remaining space in the column. And now I can hot reload again. And you see, there's now a little space below my list view for a banner. And the list view still scrolls nicely within its viewport. All right, let's load an ad. In order to track the state of an ad as it loads, I need a stateful widget. So I'll convert joke list screen to be stateful, and the plugin helps me here. And now I can add a field for a banner ad. This object represents a single banner ad placement within the application. The remaining work for me is about loading an ad into this placement and using the aptly named ad widget to integrate it into the widget tree so my users can see it. Okay, first up is loading an ad. I need to make sure initialization is complete before I do that. So I'll override did_change dependencies in the state object. This method is called anytime one of the inherited widgets on which a state object depends gets changed. It's also run just after init state the first time a state object is created, but before build, so it's a good spot for any non-trivial work you need to do that requires a build context. First, I need to call the superclass method. Next, I'll grab the ad state using provider. Then I can use then to add a function to be executed when that future completes. Inside, I'll call setState and instantiate a banner ad object. It needs an ad unit ID, which I can also get from addState, and a size. I'll use addSize.banner, which is 320 by 50. Next up is an ad request, and I'll just need a plain one, but this object allows you to set flags and parameters that are used when the server selects an ad. If I were using Google Ad Manager here rather than AdMob, I might want to set keywords to help the server select from several different ad campaigns that I'd set up beforehand. The last parameter I need is an ad listener object. This is a class that exposes a bunch of callbacks that the ads plugin will call in response to events. I could define one here, but a better place would be back in addState. I can create a getter for a listener right here. And for the actual instance, you know how we've all seen those cooking shows on YouTube where someone starts a recipe for like a giant roast turkey? This is going to take about 3 hours to cook, but I just so happen to have one here that I started 3 hours ago. Well, consider the following pasted in code to be my giant roast turkey, because it's large and easy to understand. Actually, it's only 15 lines, so maybe a roast chicken, but it is good code. This is a simple ad listener that just logs all the events that can take place. There's one for an ad loading, for instance, and one that's called when someone taps on an ad and leaves the app for a browser. You could use that one to stop background work if you happen to be running some. Anyway, I provide that listener from my addState object right here. And that's it. Now I just need to call load, which I'll do using the cascade operator. This is a neat little Dart trick. It calls the method, but instead of returning the result, it returns the object on which the method was called. Cool. So now I've got this closure here that will execute once ads are initialized, and it's going to create a banner ad and call setState. All that's left now is to display that ad. So let me go back to my build method and change the bit at the bottom to use an if-then. Ever since Dart 2.5, we've been able to use if-else statements and for loops inside lists. So I can put a null check on banner ad here and return the sized box if the ad hasn't been created, or put in a container with the same height if it is. Then inside the container, I'm going to use an ad widget to display my banner ad. Okay, let me go ahead and hot restart, and there's my test ad. I can tap on it and open a browser with the destination URL, come back, and you can see in my log that the listener is receiving and printing out ad events properly.
Awesome. So I guess we're done now. Thanks, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this talk.
Wait, we haven't gotten to the cool part yet.
Okay, just kidding. Please go ahead and be cool.
Thanks, and I wish people would say that to me more. As some of you may know, there's been an AdMob plugin for Flutter for a while. I actually worked on it a bit when I was on the ads team. That's how I got hooked on Flutter in the first place. What's new about this version is that the ads are integrated into the widget tree. Previously, they were displayed with native views that floated on top of whatever Flutter rendered. They were two completely different systems, so you couldn't put a banner in a column like I just did, and you definitely couldn't put them in a scrolling list of widgets. Now, though, you can, and I'm going to show you how and turn my dad joke business up a notch. First up, I'll need more than one banner. So what I'm going to do is remove the banner ad property, and instead keep track of a list of items, one for each row in the list, and they'll be either a joke or a banner. Then in init state, I'll start with a copy of the list of jokes. So now I've got a new list, and inside did change dependencies. Instead of creating one banner ad, I'll loop through the list, back to front, and drop in banner ads every so often. Let's say to start a few from the end, make sure I stop at 1, so there's no chance to have an ad first in the list, and I'll put in one banner every 10 items. Now, I just use insert at that index, and I keep the same banner ad constructor and load method from before. So, instead of loading one banner ad, I'm loading a few at once, and keeping track of where they should be displayed in the list. Cool, so now in my build method, I can remove the column and expand it and the if-else and go back to something much simpler. First, I need to change item count to use that new list. And then I change the item builder to check the type of the item. And return a joke row if it's a joke, or a container and ad widget if it's a banner ad. Okay, I made a bunch of changes to the state object, so let's do a hot restart instead of a hot reload. And there we go. I've got an ad on the screen, and it scrolls right along with the rest of my list. There's some other ads below, and you can see they disappear under the app bar just like any other widget. But I can still tap on a banner ad, and just like before, go to the browser, come back, no problem. This, to me, is the best feature in this new version of the plugin. Being able to monetize with ads in a way that feels more natural and less obtrusive goes a long way to maintaining a good user experience. Also, let me pull up an Android emulator and build my app again. This is a Flutter event, which means I'm talking to a multi-platform audience, and I know you're curious. And so here you can see the same app running on Android with no code changes required. I'm monetized on both platforms.
Thank you, Andrew. In this breakout session, we have shown you how you can implement banner ads in your app. But there are a lot more features we didn't get a chance to cover in this short session, and we strongly encourage you to take a look. The Google Mobile Ads SDK for Flutter is available on pub.dev for you to download and try today. Please follow the link below for detailed documentation. By the way, we also designed a collab. Please give it a try. We hope this new plugin will help you unlock more revenue growth for your Flutter apps. Thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.